Thank you, Mayor McCrory. We will now hear from the Democratic candidate, Lieutenant Governor Walter Dalton. Lieutenant Governor Dalton was born in Rutherfordton and graduated from UNC Chapel Hill with a bachelor's degree in business administration and a law degree. He built a successful law practice and served 6 terms in the North Carolina Senate before being elected the state's lieutenant governor in 2008. Please join me in giving Lieutenant Governor Walter Dalton a warm Wilmington welcome.
Good morning. Hope y'all are well. Thank you for the invitation to be with you. I want to thank Rob for his kind introduction. I feel like I'm at a family reunion to some degree. I know I've got some cousins in the audience. It's always good to be here, and I thank you for all you do for this community. I've worked with your delegation over the years, and you can be very proud of what they do for you. I was chair of appropriations in the Senate when we did some of the funding for the new cranes for the nursing school out at UNCW, for the investments in allied health, for the new teaching lab. I supported those film incentives, always will support those film incentives. I know the value of those film incentives. I'm from an area that's also seen some movies filmed. Part of Firestarter was filmed in Rutherford County at Lake Lure. Dirty Dancing is the famous one. Last of the Mohicans. I know the impact that can have, the immediate impact of a film coming in and creating jobs and buying supplies from local vendors, but also the reverberating effect. We will have people in Rutherford County this weekend wanting to know where Johnny jumped off the stage and where people lifted Jennifer Gray out of that water. So I know the value of that, and thank you for what you do. I am a business major from UNC at Chapel Hill. I worked in banking, so I think I know the value of business. I managed a small business. You want a governor that makes great decisions. I have proof positive that I make great decisions. I married my high school sweetheart, and we've been married 41 years. She is a great leader in her own right. She's a former public school teacher. For 9 years, she was on our school board, the first lady ever to chair the Rutherford County School Board. In 1999, she was named North Carolina's School Board Member of the Year. And in 1998, if you want to have fun in a marriage, get on the ballot together. We did that. She is one of the most competitive people I have ever been around. And true story, as we were watching the returns come in on the local cable channel, she leaned forward, she said, "I can't believe I didn't win that precinct by more than that." I leaned forward and I said, "Don't worry about it, babe." I said, "Those are my returns." She leaned back, she said, "Well, that's not too bad." But she is a great lady. We believe in this thing called public service. We believe that good policies can lift lives. Somebody once asked me, "Why do you serve in the North Carolina Senate? You don't get paid very much. You travel over 450 miles round trip each and every week when you're in session. Why do you do it?" And I think my wife and I both would say you do it for the psychological income. The idea that you're helping your fellow man, that you're building that better future. And that's even more important during tough times. And we have had tough times, there's no question about that. When I was sworn in, I say I was sworn in between a rock and a hard place. And the rock was trade policies, fast-track legislation occurring around 2003, 2004 that sent manufacturing jobs offshore. I know because my home county of Rutherford was very heavily involved in textiles. Cone Mills, Dan River, Fieldcrest, Burlington, Tultex, many, many more. And they were asking what happened, and that's what I learned, that fast-track legislation really accelerated that job loss. About the time we were getting to our knees, we saw the credit crisis hit around 2007, 2008. Credit dried up for big business and small business, and it knocked us back down again. And I think we are still somewhat stagnant because we've seen cuts out of Raleigh that cut out thousands of educator positions, but also a $1 billion cut to health care, where we have a demand for jobs, but it was estimated that that would cost us 15,000 jobs in the private sector. So it's a very difficult time, but public service is very important during difficult times, perhaps more important then than at other times. That's the reason I have been here many, many times in the Wilmington area and the Southeast region holding public meetings, because I think things should not be Raleigh-centric. We should be listening to you. I came here on a small business listening tour because I realized that the big businesses had kind of gone away and small business was carrying the load. And out of that, I proposed a small business assistance fund that has helped some of the small businesses weather the storm. I came here to talk about jobs and my jobs commission joining our businesses and our schools, because what we need to do is align that educational effort with the job needs of the future. What I hear from you and what I heard at those meetings was that we're not getting the product we need. They don't have the skills we need in this knowledge-based economy. In 2003, I did something called the Innovative Education Act. It laid a foundation to create early college high schools in North Carolina. Most people say not everybody's going to need a 4-year degree, and they are right. But most people say, but they're going to need something beyond high school in this knowledge-based economy, and I think they're right. I said if you're going to redraw education, if you erased it all today, you wouldn't have a traditional 4-year high school. You would have one of these 5-year programs. It's a collaboration between a public school and an institution of higher learning. You enter in the 9th grade. 5 years later, you have 2 years of college or a technical degree, depending on how they are structured. It has been very successful. We have 1/3 of the early college high schools in America today. 7 of the top 10 high schools last year for graduation rate were early colleges. Harvard gave us an award for innovation, and the New York Times says it is a model for the nation. And as chair of the Jobs Commission, I tried to take that to the next level and align it with job needs and get a business partner with those schools. In Fort Bragg, I learned that they have a language lab where they have a hard time getting people to take the jobs because they don't have the skilled workforce. So we did an early college focused on language and global culture. Every Special Forces soldier is versed in a foreign language. There is a demand there. 60-something languages are spoken in Cumberland County, North Carolina. We did one on science, technology, engineering, and math. That model is so successful that the Association of Engineers has asked them to come to Argentina next year for the World Conference of Engineering to talk about that program. And then another one in agri-science and agribusiness, bringing 5 counties together because that is our #1 economy. I came here for a meeting to hear from you on the logistics task force. How are we going to move people and goods in the 21st century using our roads, our rail, our airports, and our ports, which are so vital? And I will tell you, based upon that meeting particularly, the Southeast region, I think, has a tremendous future. I really do. Because if you look at the economy today, the 3 greatest economies we have in North Carolina, #1 is agribusiness, and it's #1 by a long shot, about $74 billion to our economy. The number 2 and number 3 would be military and tourism. If you add those together, they don't equal agribusiness, but they are still strong, they are still vibrant, and no area is stronger in those 3 economies than Southeast North Carolina. If we make the right investments, we will lead, I think, in this 21st century economy. Film is another one where we are growing here in this region if we make the right investments. I believe we can increase our exports out of our ports by 1/3 without that much difficulty, particularly using the military, using agribusiness. During this down economy, we increased our exports in agribusiness products. So we have to continue to focus on that. We have to have a state of opportunity. We've always had a great history in North Carolina of being a state of opportunity. I've always been very proud that it was our state. When this United States was created and they carved out something called North Carolina, that the nascent act of our legislature was to say, we'll create a public university in North Carolina. There were great private universities, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, William and Mary, but you had to be rich to go there. in this state. We said if you have the talent, if you have the ability, if you have the desire, then in this state, you're going to have the opportunity to be the best that you can be. During the Great Depression, we had a governor, Omax Gardner. He's from Shelby, North Carolina, where I used to represent that area in the Senate. He said during the Great Depression, North Carolina will not close its public schools. Only one state did not close its public schools. It was North Carolina. In addition, he said, I know it's the Great Depression, but we're not going to lay off any teachers because that will just make the Depression worse. We had the vision in this state to marry education and research and create the Research Triangle Park because new economies grow from new inventions. Today, 45,000 people work there, but those companies have call centers and manufacturing centers throughout North Carolina creating jobs. And then I think the greatest vision of all was Terry Sanford, to create this community college system, 58 colleges, 70-something campuses across the state, the third largest system in the nation today, doing a breadth of things that are very great. Adult high school education, adult high school diplomas, the 2+2 programs, 2 years of college and transfer it over. If you want to keep student debt down, go to those community college for the first 2 years. That's what Erskine Bowles would say. And then the technical degrees and vocational education are so important. We've got to keep those things strong. It reminds me of the tenant farmer that was being tried for stealing his landlord's mule. The jury was rather sympathetic, and when they went out, they came back, and the judge said, Mr. Foreman of the jury, how do you find the defendant? He said, may it please the court, we find the defendant not guilty if he'll return the mule. Judge said, well, that's not a proper verdict. Go back in and consider it again. That's just not right. You can't do that. So they went back in, came out, just a brief period of time. He says, Mr. Foreperson of the jury, how do you find the defendant? He says, may it please the court, we find him not guilty, and he can keep the mule. We have to keep our university system strong. We have to keep our community college system strong. That's what separates us, I think, in this world that we have today. We have to be strong in education. I think the key is that we're not going to be judged by that past I just talked about. We're going to be judged by our future. I've been around this state, been to this area also, conducting town hall meetings. I suggested to my opponent that during this past summer, wouldn't it be wonderful if we conducted debates 8 times on the campus of community colleges? I suggested that because that is the intersection of education and economic development. He refused. But I went around and I conducted town hall meetings, and anybody could come in, Republican, Democrat, or independent. I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. I will answer any question. There were no planted questions in that audience. And based upon that, and based upon those other tours that I did, logistics and jobs and small business and many other things, I came out with an economic recovery plan. Go to walterdalton.org and you will see it. But I will tell you, and I'm going to talk about it, it is not based on political talk points in a poll. It is based upon solid research, best practices, and what we heard at those meetings. It is a way to recruit new industry to our state and to grow new industry within, to retool what we do, to retrain our workforce, and to refocus. Now, I will tell you the first thing, I believe in creating jobs right now, but also creating jobs for the future. So the first thing is, for the long-term unemployed, let's give businesses a $2,000 tax credit if they will hire somebody that is long-term unemployed. But they may have trepidation about that, so there is also a train-to-hire provision that is not strictly 6 months and older. Anybody that's on unemployment, if you want to take them on for 8 weeks at 24 hours a week to test them out, and they can draw a partial unemployment benefit, then that way the employer can have some security if they really want to hire this person. Other states have used that to save money. Also, a shared work provision, so if you're thinking about laying off your employees, let's say that you can reduce your workforce, access a partial benefit for those employees, but keep them working. That will save money, and it will also keep people working. Also, for startups, you can sell your tax credits. A lot of startups don't make money, so tax credits that were intended to incentivize them don't really work. So let's let them sell those tax credits. Also, small business tax cut. My plan has a small business tax cut that I think will be very beneficial to small business, and access to capital for manufacturing. Manufacturing is still 20% of our business in North Carolina. This will cut through the red tape. It will allow businesses to get lower interest rates and more flexible terms. Dollars for development. The way you build a new economy is keep the best and brightest in North Carolina and attract them in. This is a fund that will attract private capital and public money to attract the best and brightest. It will encourage investment in our research institutions, and again, research drives that new economy. Biotech. Biotech is an industry that grew in North Carolina during the Great Recession. We ranked number 3 in biotech, and it's a wide range of jobs from manufacturing to research. Let's take the growth money off the taxes received from biotech and plow some of that back in. It is not a tax increase. That industry is growing. Let's take some of that growth and keep plowing it back. One thing you will see in this plan is focusing upon the high growth industries in North Carolina. Let's find out who they are, what they are, and let them grow even faster to drive that 21st century economy. Military reset. Part of the logistics task force, we learned that the equipment is coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, going to Alabama and Georgia, I think, for reset, and then brought back to the North Carolina bases. Why don't we do that right in North Carolina? We can save your tax dollars at the federal level, and we can help build an economy right here. Focusing on made in North Carolina. If we're going to have a contractor doing business for the state of North Carolina, we want them to use North Carolina companies. If you're asking for any type of incentive from North Carolina, then we don't want to see you offshore. We want to see you using North Carolina companies. And to the greatest extent we can do that, this plan allows for that to happen. Again, a rural initiative. Our rural areas continue to hurt. You will look at that plan and you will see many things that will help rural North Carolina, including a new generation initiative, which I've been heading, hoping to get young people back into the rural areas where they came from to create businesses and to be leaders. Workforce training, obviously, is a key at our community colleges. I've always been a fan of the community colleges. I was chair of the board of a community college for several years, and I truly know the great things they do. And I applaud Dr. McKeithen, who I've worked with over the years, for the great work he did here, and then Frank Sales, who I've worked with in many capacities also. You can be very proud of Cape Fear. An infrastructure bank. We have to have border strategies, and infrastructure will cross lines, water, sewer, roads. Let's have an infrastructure bank where we partner with other states and we pool the money and get the best bang for the buck. If you look at the plan, you will see it's focused really on 2 stages. Phase 1, recovery, people say, where are the jobs today? They're in allied health. Baby boomers are getting older. That's always driven our economy. We need more nurses, nurses assistants, rest home workers, physical therapists. This plan will address that. Military, you've already heard me speak to that. That is a growing economy also. Entrepreneurship, and encourages that with the dollars for development. Some of the great stories out there are people who've come off the assembly line. For 20 years, they had an idea rolling around in their head. When they were laid off, then they put that idea to work and became employers themselves. And some of them actually are engaged in the global economy. And then in biotech, I've mentioned biotech and agriculture, film, and then the research, the ologies, climatology, bioinformatics, photonics, cancer research, regenerative medicine. We have invested money in those things where North Carolina is a leader. I was in Charlotte the other day, and there's a company called Inventus. And they asked people to send them their great ideas. This is the Snuggie. This is a little cat scratching thing, but it's also the best knee brace that you've ever seen. When I was in the Senate as appropriations chair, we appropriated some money for bioinformatics and photonics, the storage of information through the use of light. It's very key to the banking industry, the insurance industry, the medical industry, because it is very fast, fast as light, very secure. But they have now developed a fabric that's out of these photoelectronics, and it looks like polyester. But if you wear a jacket, you can power your cell phone with it. If you're in the military, you can pitch a tent and run your computer. And that's one thing that Inventus was looking at. What they do is they take that new idea, they say, if it's a good idea, we think we can make money, we'll pay for the patent, we'll pay for the prototyping, we take 50% of the profits and partner with you. Those are the types of things I think that we need to encourage. Of course, we have to have the investments in education. If we're in a knowledge-based economy, those people who out-educate us, other states, other countries, they're going to out-recruit us for the good businesses and the jobs. We have to be able to be competitive there. It's like the 105-year-old lady that was approached, and they said, what do you like most about being 105 years old? She thought a minute. She says, lack of peer pressure. We have peer pressure, and we have to meet that peer pressure. The peer pressure today oftentimes comes from China and India. We have to be agile. We have to be about innovation. The great baseball player Ty Cobb was 70 years old, and he was at his hometown in Rome, Georgia, when a sportscaster came to interview him and said, Mr. Cobb, we've looked at your record, and you're one of the greatest baseball players that ever played. You hit over 400. Only a handful of players ever did that. Your lifetime batting average was 364, the tops in the league. Nobody will ever approach that. But, Mr. Cobb, the thing that impressed me most was you played 24 seasons. In 23 seasons, you hit over 300. Nobody will ever do that. But you know, Mr. Cobb, the game has changed. Pitchers are bigger. They're throwing the ball faster. The curveball looks like it's falling off a cliff. If you were playing today, Mr. Cobb, what do you think you would hit? Cobb thought a minute and said, I don't know, 255, 265. They said, really, you think it would make that much difference? He said, heck, man, I am 70 years old. We've got to be able to change. Things are changing, and we will do that. I believe in a bubble-up economy. I believe if you give people the tools to compete, everybody gets better. I've said it's not competition. When one team walks on the field, they've got the best uniforms and the best coaching, and the other team walks on and they're barefooted and they don't know the rules. But if you equip both teams, everybody is going to get better. And that means having a great education today. You know, I'm about through, but I will tell you, I'm reading a book called Cronkite by David Brinkley. Everybody, I think, most everybody in this room will remember Walter Cronkite, one of the greatest reporters of all time. During World War II, he was a World War II news correspondent with the United Press International, a great news agency. He was very proud of that. CBS approached him during World War II, but that was in its infancy, and he loved UPI. He thought it was the best. So he said no. But after the war, CBS came back, and he looked at UPI, and he kept talking about how they were downsizing. This is what he said. UPI was always downsizing, whittling away its greatness, cutting corners until only the sawdust was left. Cutting corners until only the sawdust was left. Because of that downsizing of its greatness, because of the cutting of its corners, Walter Cronkite left UPI and went with CBS. If you Google UPI today, it says it was once a great international news agency. I don't want to see that happen to our universities, our community colleges. That's what will make us great in the future. A great author once said, we should never be pushed by our problems, we should be led by our dreams. We have problems, we have to fix those problems, but in fixing those problems, you do not ignore those dreams of the future, better jobs, better pay, better quality of life. That's what we need to be about as people here in North Carolina. That's why I am running for governor. Somewhere, Lucille and I are expecting our first grandchild, and we want the very best for that grandchild, but we want the very best for every child in North Carolina. Somewhere today, there's a child in North Carolina that has the energy and idea and ingenuity to make a huge difference for North Carolina. It may be my grandchild. It may be your grandchild or your child. I truly do wake up every day, and sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night thinking of that child and that family. I want the best for them. I want the best for you. That's why I ask for your vote for governor. Thank you so much.
We've got time for a few questions. We've Linda Thomas at table 16.
My question is about the recent increase that the insurance companies are asking for. They're proposing a 30% increase for insurance in this area. Do you support this? And this is after a period of many increases over the last few years and a period where we've had no big need for insurance payouts here.
I have great concerns about that. As you know, the Commissioner of Insurance is a constitutional officer, so that's really in his ballpark. The governor would have the bully pulpit on it. I have great concerns, and the reason I have great concerns is this. I talked about fast-track trade policies. Truly, if you look, NAFTA and CAFTA had passed. We were losing manufacturing jobs, but we were actually transitioning fairly well in North Carolina. But that fast-track deal took the bottom out of it. I'm not sure of the statistic. I have heard that we were losing 5,000 jobs a year to foreign trade in North Carolina. After that, it was about 25,000 jobs a year for about 3 years in a row. And we just could not transition. It truly knocked us to our knees. We were a manufacturing economy, and that killed us, and we're still struggling with that. When you see those types of increases, that same type of effect can happen, and it's going to hurt not just you individually in your ability to keep up that home and everything. It's going to hurt the tourism industry, which is one of our top 3 industries and very vibrant, so I have great concerns. That is something controlled out of the Commissioner of Insurance's office, so I don't know if he's at this, the candidates for that are at this power lunch or not, but certainly I think I would also ask them about that too. But I think we need more transparency there, and I think we've got to be careful when you see that type of increase so rapidly. It has a tremendous ripple effect.
Next question's from Terry at table 9.
I'm sorry. Where is it? Yes, sir.
Here. In talking about tax reform, there's been some pretty significant legislation recently passed. So I was curious what you felt about tax reform, where it's going in this state, and the key to tax reform is really broadening the tax base. And what would you propose to broaden the tax base in order to reduce individual and corporate income taxes in this state?
Yeah, when you talk about tax reform, my opponent has said that he wants to totally eliminate the corporate tax and reduce the personal income tax, but that he would reallocate the tax burden. He would do it with consumption taxes, which generally means an increase in sales tax, tax on services. And if you look at how that reallocation works, it really means that it's going to be reallocated to the middle class and working families and senior citizens. So I have some great trepidation about that. I think when you look at it, where we need to look is at the way the tax code has changed due to technology. Most people in this room, I think, will remember the old 45 records with the big hole in them, and when you went to the music store, you paid sales tax on that. Now people are downloading that off the internet. I think it's fair to charge a tax on that because that's just the way our tax code has evolved. We have a tax on the books now. It would not be an increase in tax that says that you pay sales tax on internet sales, but it's self-reporting. We know it's vastly underreported. There are hundreds of millions of dollars that can be derived there if we can have what's called a streamlined sales tax. The federal government said if we had 20 or 30 states that would agree on alignment of their sales taxes, they would allow that to be collected by the provider, and that would be good. We have that. We've done that. We've worked very hard on that over the years, yet they've not worked with us to allow that to be done. I think that is fair. Many of you in here are probably in retail in North Carolina. You employ North Carolina citizens. You build bricks and mortar in North Carolina and pay tax base on that. Yet a catalog company or an internet company that is remote, that has no employees, has no bricks and mortar, is not having to collect that tax, and you are. I don't think that is fair. And that is one way that we can modernize the tax code, and I think acknowledge what technology has now done to the economy. The law is based on a 1920-something case called International Shoe that said you had to have a physical presence. Well, they didn't have computers back then. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have eBay and things like that. So that's what I have said, that we do need to look at the tax code, but I think we need to look at the way technology has changed that. over time. And frankly, to totally eliminate the corporate tax and say we're going to reallocate that to individuals, I don't think is right. Now, that's my own personal opinion. That's the reason there are choices in elections. I think that we need to look and make sure our corporate tax rate is competitive. I will tell you this, three things about the corporate tax rate, or any tax rate. North Carolina, three things happen in North Carolina. One, we have always valued low tuition. If you look at Kiplinger, University of North Carolina, University of North Carolina at Wilmington, many of those are listed as some of the best values for education because we have valued education. So your tax dollars are used to supplement that, to make it affordable, so we can have that bubble up economy and give people the opportunity. Secondly, North Carolina centralizes more things, which cost more tax dollars. We fund the maintenance of 82,000 miles of hard surface road in North Carolina with your tax dollars. Georgia, which is a little bit bigger, funds about 18,000 miles with their tax dollars. They've got as many roads, but you need to go look at their local taxes. We don't have 100 DOTs in North Carolina. We have one, which costs more in tax dollars, but it's more efficient use of your dollars. The third reason, if you look at the tax incentives, and nobody likes incentives, but I think they are necessary if we're going to compete. The federal law says other states can offer them, and if we don't offer them, not only will we not be able to grow businesses within North Carolina, attract businesses from without, we'll start losing our North Carolina businesses outside. But those tax incentives are lowering the tax rate generally for companies that come in, pay higher than the average wage, make a substantial investment to the tax base, and provide benefits to a majority of their employees, and also are conducting a business that we feel will be sustainable into the future and be able to keep those jobs. And you have to have strong clawbacks. But if you look at our tax rates, sometimes you don't think about low tuition incentives to lower the rate for those companies that really will make a difference to your economy, and the centralized management that we do. It's not just roads. We have a centralized education system, basically. I think it's New Jersey that only funds education with 5% of state dollars. We have a centralized court system. Our community college system, one reason it is so strong is that we fund all the operation with state dollars, and we have more consistency of excellence across it. So sometimes you can hear political talk points and you don't get the whole story. That's what I hate about 26-second ads. That's what I love about being in front of you today. That's what I loved about those town hall meetings. That's the reason I go around the state talking to people and telling people that it's not going to be Raleigh-centric. I want to talk to you.
We've got time for one more question. Janet Nelson, table 20.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lieutenant Governor. My question is both about, you've spoken a lot about return on investment, education and economic development, and we know that the first 2,000 days of a child's life before they start kindergarten, we get the best return on investment. We also know that working families need high quality care. We want to bring businesses to North Carolina. Those families need high quality child care. Right now in New Hanover County, we've got about 5,000 families that depend on child care. And we have 1,000 children on a waiting list for child care subsidy for working families who need assistance. I would like to know, if you are governor, how you will support the early childhood efforts of North Carolina through child care subsidy, through Smart Start, through North Carolina Pre-K, so that all children can be successful and families can be supported.
Great question. I'll also tell you the Federal Reserve is a very conservative body, and they do not normally engage in social issues. But not too long ago, they did a study, and they said the results are so compelling that we are going to engage in this social issue. And it was that the best dollar invested in education is in early childhood education. It makes a huge difference. And if you talk about your businesses, if you look and find out where you're losing productivity, more often than not, much more time is lost because of child care issues than it is because of sickness or death or anything like that. So having a vibrant and actually a national model for early childhood is something that I think we should strive for. We've done in North Carolina. The courts got involved and said in this last session that the cuts, 20% cuts to early childhood was unconstitutional. That's what they said. It's unconstitutional, and you need to go back and repair it. The legislature failed to come back in and appropriate the money for it. And I think that is wrong. I think that is wrong, and I think that is wrong. I have been a spokesperson for Smart Start. I think it is something, as we try to grow businesses in North Carolina, as we try to attract businesses in North Carolina, if we can show them that there is quality child care for those employees, that is something that CEOs look at. That is something that companies look at. They know that you're really looking toward the future. So I am coming out after I leave here today. Over at Cape Fear, I'm going to be announcing my detailed education plan, as I have announced that detailed economic development plan, and part of it will be early child care. We need to continue to try to expand that as best we can in a fiscally responsible manner. When I was on appropriations, we retained that AAA bond rating. We were rated the fourth most fiscally responsible state in the United States by USA Today. If you look at the budget in the year 2000, the budget in the year 2010, the per capita appropriation went up 0%. We're a growing state. That puts stress on us. So again, we have to fix our problems. But as we fix the problems, let's don't take our eye off the future and what we need to do for the future to make North Carolina strong, make the right investments. When like I said at the very beginning of that speech, when we invested in allied health at UNCW, when we invested in teaching at UNCW, I think that's not fraud and waste. That's an investment in the future that will help build that better economy. We are in tough times. We've got to work together to get through the tough times, all 100% of us, and do the things that will make a difference to make the future much brighter. So again, thank you for what you do. Thank you. The leaders of this community are right here in this room, so I thank you for what you do for this area and the state of North Carolina.
I'd like to thank both candidates for being a part of this event. Please remember, early voting starts October 18th, and Election Day is Tuesday, November 6th. Thank you for coming, and we hope to see you Monday at the Roy Williams event.
Got memories? Get DVDs. Tapes won't last forever. Digital transfers will. Do it today, so you'll have your memories tomorrow. Call us at 399-1820 or online at myrealvideo.com. Mold and time ruin videotapes. Tapes won't last forever. Digital transfers will. Do it today, so you'll have your memories tomorrow. Call us at 399-1820 or online at myrealvideo.com.